and welcome to the KOFISI Connect podcast, your source for a wealth of roundtable discussions in the workplace and business, as well as cultural news and trends from the diverse and dynamic continent of Africa. This November, it's Innovation and Impact Month, which is a theme that's very close to our hearts here at KOFISI, because it's through constant innovation that we can evolve to create the biggest impact. I'm your host, Georgia Webber, and joining me in the studio today is Alexandra Baylis, and Kidist Sinshaw from HEN, who are partnering with KOFISI to create a completely sustainable uniform for our staff. Welcome, both of you.
Hello.
This is great news. So just tell me, both of you are experts in sustainable design and sustainable clothing. Tell me a little bit about how you got into that.
Well, I've been a fashion designer for 15 years, so I've worked for a multitude of different companies in the luxury sector and the contemporary sector. And I think one of the biggest takeaways from that experience was how opaque and unavailable the supply chain is. So as a designer, you might know your tier 1 and tier 2 suppliers. So as I ventured out and founded my own company to make the first sustainable uniforms, I had to go so granular all the way back to extruding petroleum for polyester to really understand what the impact of making clothes is. And it just unearthed this huge explorative masters in sustainability for me, and I became incredibly passionate about it. So it really stemmed from meeting the manufacturers, I would say.
So I suppose instead of rejecting the industry, you decided to try and change it.
Yeah, and it's no easy feat because a lot of brands wait for consumer movement to make any action, and a lot of manufacturers have very difficult cash flows. So there needs to be investment from governments, from NGOs, from the greater population. That's not really happening. So it's a big task. And what we're doing at HEN is we're starting with sustainable design, but we're actually building a platform that will enable sustainable manufacturers to be highlighted and grow their businesses on the global market.
Fantastic. Mm-hmm. Kidist, how did you get into the world of sustainable fashion or clothing and textiles?
So my background is in water sciences, and after my studies I went on to work for GIZ Ethiopia, which was doing a sustainable textiles project, and I firsthand witnessed how much the textile industry was impacting the environment and the society, and I was a big part of it. So through the program I firsthand witnessed how it affects the labor market and how many pollutants it releases into the environment. And I wanted to be a big part of the change. And that's how I came to work with HEN on the uniform project for KOFISI.
When you were working for GIZ Ethiopia, tell me what was the most, I suppose, upsetting thing that you will have seen with regards to the kind of textile industry? Was it the amount of waste, or what was it that you were most shocked by, I suppose?
The amount of waste, yes, that's also a big part of it. But for me, it was how exploitative the industry was. Right. So the people who work there, they barely make a living wage. And the toxic chemicals that get released in the factories, they are directly affected by that. Most of them don't have protective equipment. So the impact that it has directly on the workers, who are mostly women, and can affect their reproductive systems and their health in general. So that was the most important thing for me.
To add to that, it's one of the industries where over the past 50 years, the cost of materials has risen, the cost of manufacturing has risen, yet the price and the cost we sell clothing at has decreased rapidly. So we're kind of sitting on a house of cards, and the people that are paying the price are working in the communities manufacturing the clothing. So it is very exploitative. It's a very opaque supply chain as well. And so it's kind of propped up by this predatory relationship between brands and retailers and manufacturers. So that's really what we're passionate about, that we're trying to change. And doing these case studies, especially with KOFISI, and really building a supply chain that is local, empowering people, empowering communities, and fully sustainable is a proving point that if we can do it here, we can do it anywhere. So we're really excited to partner with you guys.
Because it's a massive project. I mean, we've got a lot of staff, hospitality teams, and so talk me through, I suppose, the process of. I mean, I know this is maybe a shortened version of just of the process of starting with such a big project with clients like KOFISI.
Yep. So we operate with 3 pillars. One is environmental, one is powered by people, and one is regenerative. So, sustainability really starts with design and ends with design. So when you're creating any product, you can't just think of it as an outcome where you distribute it to KOFISI and then it's done. We have to factor in the entire life cycle because we are responsible for the things we make. So in terms of environmental, we start from the fiber. We do a lot of extensive research because there are natural fibers and man-made fibers, and you have to do sort of an evaluation on each product to whether one thing is better than the other. Right. So people often think cotton is great, but cotton is incredibly water intensive. It's a monocrop, it depletes the environment, so it's not always the most sustainable option. So that's why we would source cotton locally from regenerative farms. We also, we explore using man-made fibers like polyester. We use recycled polyester, so post-industrial and post-commercial plastic that's melted down. And we actually use a technology that is embedded into the molten process that basically makes polyester biodegrade much like a wool and a cotton. So for people that don't know, polyester takes 250 to 300 years to biodegrade. Wow. The problem with that is not only is there an enormous amount of landfill, but every time you launder a garment, you shed hundreds of thousands of microplastics. And they are prevalent. They're in our food supply, in our water supply, and we actually consume them. So the average person consumes a credit card size worth of plastics every week. Wow. And we're just learning the health implications of that. So this is a huge invisible issue. But polyester still is a very efficient and kind of low impact fiber to produce in some ways, not the fact that it's from petroleum, but in terms of the actual manufacturing of it. And it's a performance fabric, so it's great for uniforms. So this kind of additive basically helps us re-engineer a man-made material and have a better end-of-life solution. So we start with materials. We work through efficiencies in design and on our assembly line. We build in recyclability into our designs. So we think about, okay, at the end of this life, if we have 10,000 different components, it's really hard to recycle. If we mix fibers, it's really hard to recycle. So we think about those things when we design. The second part is people. So we are very, very strict on who we work with. We have a very robust audit process to vet our suppliers, and we work with high impact suppliers. So for example, we're going to be working with Ubuntu here, which are a wonderful manufacturer, and the proceeds of our investment with them and their supply chain is that they support a wellness center for children with health issues. So these are the kind of community-based manufacturers that we want to partner with on this project, and just really focus on empowering local communities. So 100% of our manufacturing will be done in Kenya. For our materials, we're trying to source as much as we can on the continent with a goal of 50%, just because some of the infrastructure is not here yet for some of the materials, but as soon as it is, we will migrate. And then the third part is regeneration. So as we we roll out our new uniforms for KOFISI, we have a plan in place to recycle and repurpose the existing uniforms. So we'll take them back and we will put them into downstream recycling programs. They can be mechanically shredded and used for insulation. They can be repurposed as actual fabrics and made into new garments. So we're really trying to take care of absolutely every element. And there's no silver bullet for sustainability in textiles. It's the third biggest polluter behind construction and oil and gas. And so, our approach is we'll do the best we can with what we have available now. And as the world progresses, we'll adapt, but constantly pushing for innovation.
And you've been having a look at some of the local manufacturers around. Tell me, Kidist, do you want to tell me a bit about your experience? I know you've seen some throughout this week.
So one of the local manufacturers we visited is called Ubuntu Life, and they started out as a foundation to help special needs children, and they expanded into helping the mothers so that they could have a job while also spending some time with their kids. And now they, of course, operate as a Business Plus Foundation. And we went to their facilities and saw firsthand the materials they use and how the people work there. And it was really a very inspiring trip because they are a very impactful company that are very focused on sustainability and very focused on people. And they even give the mothers opportunity to work from home so that they could spend some time with their kids as well.
Fantastic. So how do you make sure that these are external suppliers are kind of, sourcing ethically and then upholding the fair labour practices?
So normally we would of course start with a site visit, and also we check with them how they source their materials. So we want to see the product from beginning to end. So we will also go and visit where they source their fabrics from and where the cotton comes. So we'll be doing a frequent factory check-in to actually verify what they're saying is true.
And then part of our due diligence process is vetting their POs. So if we are ordering, let's just say, a certain number of cotton aprons, there's a stream of POs that have to be placed in order to get that supplied to Ubuntu Life. So we'll have that on record in our sustainability data room. And in terms of fair labour practice in general, it can be really tricky because one of the things that often happens, and it's a very unregulated industry, is that people will accept, contracts and then subcontract out. So you can do your due diligence and vet your supplier, not knowing that they're subcontracting out your project, and then that becomes very opaque. I had a fact from a panel once that it's impossible in any textile supply chain to ensure that it's free from human trafficking and other predatory behaviours, which is a really shocking, horrible fact that stuck with me. So we operate by using third-party certifications, things like SEDEX. There's so many, I'm completely blanking right now. So Blue Sign, Cradle to Cradle, and in terms, free trade, fair trade, sorry. So where possible, if we haven't met this manufacturer, don't have an established relationship, we will source suppliers that have those certifications, so third-party certifications already. There are also suppliers that are very small, and one of our goals on this mission is to help them achieve third-party certification, so that they can compete globally as well. So it's not just about supporting KOFISI, but it's about setting up our manufacturing partners for better business further down.
And I suppose, how do you view, because you're, obviously the listeners can tell from your accent that you're from the global north. You actually live in New York at the moment. But where would you say, this type of project, how innovative is it for an African kind of context? Or are you finding that it's quite easy in comparison to something you might roll out in the global north?
In many ways, yes, because I feel from my visits here and from the people I've got to know that sustainability is really built into the way of life, especially in Kenya, which I think is a really incredible thing. It's just a natural protection of resources and landscape that I've discovered here. So I think culturally, in a lot of the manufacturers we speak to, there is that sort of already that is kind of a baseline that they want to achieve. So it's less tricky than other areas. I've had the privilege of manufacturing now everywhere in the world, and there are definitely certain regions that are really, really difficult to produce or verify sustainability in terms of what you're asking for. So there's even things like you'll pick certain fibers and they'll make a small purchase order for a little bit of that, and they'll sub it out with a completely unsustainable option, make a fabric, and then you think you've made a sustainable fabric and you haven't. There's a lot of bad practice. But I find here, there is such a rich heritage in terms of textiles and especially with natural fibers and organic dyeing methods, that it's sort of already built in. So I'm finding it fairly easy. I don't want to jinx it, but we're finding it fairly easy to find some great manufacturing partners. And there are some that, we want to work with that, are built around foundations that are supporting wildlife, supporting communities. So far, so good.
Fantastic. That's great news. Historically, I suppose also the problem with the textile and fashion industry and the continent of Africa is that, a lot of people use the third world, it's not just Africa, as, a dumping ground. They kind of see it as okay to kind of throw their cast-offs or give away their cast-offs as second-hand. But that's creating its own problems here. Have you witnessed any of that?
When I lived in Ethiopia, people used to import a lot of second-hand clothing, and most of it is not bought. So it just ends up in the landfill, which has a great impact on the environment, of course. So I would advise people that they should buy consciously. So see where the material is from and where it ends up at when they give it away or when they throw it away, where it ends up. So that's very important.
I suppose that leads on to my next question, really, is what kind of small practical steps can people make to ensure that their wardrobe, I suppose, is more sustainable, but also when, things have reached their end of life, what's the best thing to do?
I think for me, the biggest takeaway that no brands will ever talk about, because it goes against everyone's best interests, and as a designer, it goes against all of my interests, that we have an overconsumption problem. So, even if we all overnight switch to organic cotton, it's not sustainable to support the demand that we've created in terms of fast fashion. So I would say investing in classic pieces that are more durable, well made. You spend a little bit more money, but you might keep them for longer. That is the true North Star for sustainability. Further than that, just understand the true cost of what it takes to make a garment. So if you're buying a T-shirt for $2, there are 300 people in that supply chain who have touched that garment, from farming cotton to logistics to spinning, carding, dyeing, weaving or knitting, sewing. So just fully understanding how many people, the fashion industry is still handmade. So even though everything is operated by machinery, there's always a person on that individual piece of machinery touching that garment. So just remembering that when you make choices in terms of fast fashion versus something that's slower and more ethically produced, I think is a really great start. And then, obviously natural fibers are great. So they're biodegradable, they're better for the environment. Natural dyes are really, really important. And I think also one other thing that people don't really talk about that much is the health implications. Your skin is your biggest organ. When you're buying cheap synthetic garments, those dyes are often heavily toxic. They massively impact women more than men because of the way we store fat in our body. So they can cause autoimmune illness, endocrine disruption, and we're starting to see the results of scientific study on that. But that's something that I try and shout at especially women, be careful what you put on your body, because it's like a hidden health hazard.
And there's some sort of awful. My son came home the other day saying, "Do you know I'm wearing a pair of jeans right now?" And he said, "Do you know how much? Is it the water that's the amount of water you were saying about the cotton, but the amount of water that's involved in producing a pair of jeans?"
Yeah, I think it's around 7 liters per pair of jeans.
Wow.
And you think about how many jeans are made worldwide. So cotton is a heavily water-intensive process. There are other alternatives, things like bamboo and certain types of viscose. So bamboo is a very sustainable option because it grows very quickly. It's a renewable resource. The only problem is it uses very intense chemicals to break down the structure to then make cellulose and make a fiber. But there are companies that have built a closed loop system for that, so there's no chemical waste. So there are options. But yeah, cotton. Everyone loves to talk about organic cotton, but it uses a huge amount of water. and it diverts that away from communities.
Fantastic. I suppose just while we sort of wrap up a little bit, what is your, because we're so excited about this programme, for us it's a great step into enhancing our ESG strategy and creating workspaces that are more sustainable all the way, woven into the fabric of our mission, vision and propositions. What would you say is the most exciting part of the uniform project you're doing with KOFISI? Or perhaps another way of looking at it might be, where would you say the impact that you're having is?
For me, the easy answer is with people, and it's both with the staff at KOFISI, and we were talking today about they're just wonderful, lovely people that work at this company. It's just, we always feel so welcome, and we really want to push to make them something that they feel incredible in. But more than that is the people in the communities, and visiting the manufacturers this week, meeting people firsthand, knowing who's making your clothes. It's something we can feel really good about, that, you know, every dollar that we spend investing in this program is going back into the community around, and I think that's definitely my most exciting thing.
Fantastic. And you're going to say the same.
More or less. So for me, it's about taking something as simple as workwear and then making it a sustainability story. So ideally, once the project is done, I would like us to be a role model so that other companies follow our suit when they produce their workwear as well. So we have less impact on the environment.
Fantastic. Well, we're so excited to launch this project. You know, you are pioneers of both innovation and impact, and welcome. And we can't wait to see the uniforms when they're rolled out. When will that be?
So we're pushing for December.
Okay.
But we will keep you posted.
Fantastic.